Hello, hello. The mic is working. Yes, I think and hope it is. Kära vänner, meine Damen und Herren, ladies and gentlemen. It sounds a bit like cabaret, doesn't it? Just the music missing. My name is Veronika Wand-Danielsson. I'm the Swedish ambassador to Germany since a year and a half back. A very warm welcome to all of you. And thank you for joining us today at the start of the Berlin Fashion Week in our much loved Fälleshuset, the common house of all the 5 Nordic embassies in Germany, not only in Berlin. Our Fälles house is, I hope many of you have been here before, open 7 days a week and hosts hundreds of events every year. And on the upper floor, yes, now we're dominating by fashion and fashion people, but there's also a Nordic exhibition. I would recommend you to go and visit it and see it. It's called Echt, Young Three-Dimensional Art from Norway this time. You see, we are like a big, warm family. I even make publicity for our Norwegian neighbors this time. Last year, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Nordic embassies in Germany here in Berlin, in the presence of the 5 heads of state of our 5 Nordic countries, and from Sweden, our much beloved and admired Crown Princess Victoria. And we were particularly proud to hear President Steinmeier express his strong appreciation and admiration of the Nordische Botschaften in Deutschland in Berlin, what he considered being an architectural landmark in Berlin, even going as far as saying no other embassy, of course I hope no other embassies are represented here today, is more open and maintains closer contacts with the local population than the Nordische Botschaften. And this according to your president, the German president. And I think, of course, it makes a difference when you have an open house, we have exhibitions, we have a restaurant, we have a coffee shop, just to make some PR also for the house as such. Today, we're happy to welcome you here inside the auditorium and outside, I understand, watching the live stream or following the event also on YouTube. The Swedish-German dialogue on the future of fashion, the power of sustainability, communication, from compliance to inspiration. Fashion has always been a mirror of our times. And in today's rapidly changing world, we face a remarkable opportunity to shape the future of fashion in a more sustainable and a more responsible way. Sustainability is no longer a trend, it is a necessity. To drive change, we need to go beyond compliance. We need to go beyond simply following rules and regulations. We must inspire both consumers and industry peers to embrace sustainable choices and to create a fashion that we all can be proud of. Communications, as we know, plays, of course, a central role. By telling genuine, innovative, and important stories, we can highlight the positive changes taking place and encourage others to join this transformation and thereby avoid greenwashing, for instance. And God knows that we, in these politically challenging times in Europe and outside Europe, need positive impulses, positive inspirations. Sweden plays an important role in this transformation. We're a country that values innovation, sustainability, and social responsibility. Swedish companies have been pioneers in sustainable fashion and have a great potential to lead the way forward and inspire others as well. We are proud to present the pop-up exhibition Fashion Forever from the Swedish Institute. The exhibition investigates the must-haves for responsible fashion, exploring themes such as circularity, user-oriented approaches, and digital performance. The exhibition presents a future where fashion is more than just consumption. Key topics features includes concepts such as traceability, transparency, and trustworthiness. And that we know, ladies and gentlemen, is worth a lot these days, trustworthiness. The exhibition also highlights how second-hand or responsible chemical practices, but also reduced water and energy consumption, as well as new fibers, contribute to a more sustainable future. Further, it stresses the significance of using again, or for instance, repairing garments to extend their lifespan. The exhibition also touches on the growing trend of clothing rental, which addresses the problem of owning expensive garments you might only wear once a year. Look at me, ladies and gentlemen. This is H&M, rental, Berlin. I might not give it back next week. I might keep it a few years, just saying, but definitely to highly recommend. Yes, as I mentioned in the beginning, the Swedish Embassy has for years organized events together with the German and Swedish sustainability experts, such as Dr. Rolf Heimann and his team from HESSNATUR and Swedish Institute and the Swedish textile capital, the city of Borås. We are all grateful for this cooperation. A big thank you to all of you. Together, we can create a future where sustainability is not just an option, but a given. Together, let's pioneer the possible and impossible. Enjoy the event, dear friends, and warmly welcome again. Vielen Dank.
It's my turn. Thank you very much. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, actually. And for me, this is the 9th year in a row. We started to do this kind of event 2016. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that. Honored guests, dear colleagues and friends, Borås, the city of Borås, has always been the forefront of textile innovation. And today we stand here not just as participants in change, but also driving the force. Through initiatives like Science Park Borås, the Swedish School of Textiles, and Textile and Fashion 2030, we are shaping a more circular and sustainable industry. A great example is the reuse of healthcare uniforms. Instead of being incinerated, they have been redesigned by an alumn. Her name is Stina Randerstad, with vividized interchangeable prints. These garments can be rented and adopted. This is a perfect example of circular economy in the practice. Our region, the Västra Götaland region, their strategy for 2021 until 2030 supports circular business models. And through projects like Circular Movement, new procurement policies are pushing sustainability innovations, initiatives such as Big Dough at the Swedish School of Textile. They are challenging traditional processes, while Textile and Fashion 2030 brings together academia, industry, and research to scale sustainable solutions globally. We are not just keeping, we are leading the way. Through collaborations, innovation, and bold thinking, we are building a future where fashion and textiles are not only stylish and functional, but also sustainable and circular. So let's continue to inspire and drive this transformation for Borås, for Sweden, for Europe, and for the whole world. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jonas. Yeah, dear Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be here once again. And Jonas, to be honest, I'm still learning now since 10 years to do the right pronunciation of Borås. It's not.
You're making it.
Come closer. Huh? Yeah, our joint program, Future of Fashion, is now deal with many different topics and facets over the last 10 years. Some of you guys been here before, and so we were discussing fabrics, we were discussing social standards, working conditions. We had 3 years before EU regulations. Last year we were talking about circularity, circular economy. And this year, of course, we have sustainable communication with this big potential, in my opinion, and with all these different aspects. So I'm really looking forward to our conference today. And what I want to say is, let's start. As a moderator, we are able to win Cläre Caspar again. Cläre, she's... Maybe you remember she already led the conference fantastically last year. Cläre, it's up to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for this introduction. Very warm welcome to everybody from me too. I am your stage host for today, and I'm really looking forward to guiding you through this conference. Let me just briefly point out some important information. The Future of Fashion is organized in 2 sessions. The first part takes place here in the Embassy Auditorium. It serves to listen to some highly interesting experts and to gain inspiration from different perspectives of the fashion industry. We will start with 2 keynote speakers and their ping-pong discussion, followed by 2 best practice reports and an open panel talk to which you are expressly invited to get involved. Because we know you are all professionals and we really want to talk on eye level here between the speakers and the audience. Therefore, the second part, the networking reception, serves as an intensive exchange between all of us upstairs at the exhibition area, arranged as a Swedish fika with coffee and cinnamon buns. Because it is important to us to provide impulses even beyond this conference and to give people who cannot be here today the opportunity to participate in the results we will now develop together, this first part here will be video recorded and published on YouTube via the channel of the Swedish Embassy. Please note that there will also be some photos taken, so we interpret your staying here in the hall as an agreement to that. At this point, also a warm welcome to the audience in the live stream. So now, fasten your seatbelts and fold up the tables, put the back of your chair in an upright position and breathe normally, because now we will deep dive into the power of sustainability communication from compliance to inspiration. How can companies communicate their sustainability strategies authentically and effectively? Here comes our first keynote speaker, Camilla Djanaieff from Modin studio in Stockholm. Welcome.
Hi. I'm really happy to be here with you today. Let's get this presentation started. Please don't be discouraged by the seriousness of the beginning of this presentation. But we are in a serious situation when it comes to fashion and sustainability. And I think all of you here know that. We are confronting a new reality. For years, we have tried to lower carbon emissions, talk about workers' rights, not to dump clothes in third world countries. How well has that worked for us up until now? Not so well, unfortunately. As Business of Fashion wrote in an article not so long ago, solutions to the problem of climate change have never been more clear, but the scale of the problem keeps getting bigger. How did we end up here? We have to talk about the root of the problem. It's not easy, but we have to do it, or the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is really the business model that is based on the production of consumption of new garments. Words from Russ Godelnik from an article in New York Times. There are two different forces that are driving this: consumption and greed. And they are, of course, linked together. The root of the problem is greed and the belief in that there is not enough for everyone. The world has enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. These words from Mahatma Gandhi is unfortunately getting more and more relevant every day. What can we do? How can we stop this? How can we stop feeding the whole with consumption? How can we stop the never-ending greedy behavior? How can we come to the realization that there is enough for everyone's need and that it is very possible to make the world more beautiful and happy? We need big change, huge change. And we can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking as we used when we created them, as Albert Einstein so wisely said. This is an artwork from Maurizio Nannucci from the Penny Guggenheim Museum, and I love it. So how do we change? What will make us change? Can our behavior change through looking inwards? To listen within? To investigate where our consciousness comes from? And how to be more conscious? This has to start with each and every individual. We can't trust the big corporations and politicians to fix the problem. And there is hope. As a backlash to the insane behaviors of destructions in the world, more and more people are looking inwards. We see a huge increase in meditation, yoga, wellness, different kinds of retreats, including silent retreats. This is the beginning of a trend. A trend is not a fad. A trend is a tendency that first a few people are affected by, and then more and more. Eventually, most people will be affected by a trend. At Modin Studio, we lead ahead of trends and inspire our clients to do the same. By doing so, we inspire consumers to change behaviors. This can be done with subtle inspiration and by leading by example. Modin Studio wrote a manifesto 7+ years ago, and here is the first part. Modin Studio was founded in response to the current volatile situation in the world. We appear to be moving in the wrong direction, shaped by fraught beliefs and mindless impulses. What we need is to travel in a new direction, to learn that it is possible to live our lives in a different way, and to discover other ways of thinking and doing. The hardening of the mind, the ego, and the escalating sense of separation from deeper meaning is now reaching a crescendo. The vehemence is triggered by a shift in our consciousness. The length of this turbulence and the aftermath of it will depend on humanity. The veil of forgetfulness is thinning, and we are awakening out of a state of separation and unconsciousness to a new reality. The rest of the manifesto consists of 14 points that the clients have to adhere to. It will take too long and it will be too boring if I read them all, but I will read number 1 and number 9. And it starts with, as a client of Modin Studio, we accept and align with the following principles. Our company is based on a vision to support a more sustainable and ethically just society by offering products that can be appreciated, cherished, and used for a long time by the same person or by many users, and by carrying out our business in the most respectful, ethical, and environmentally responsible manner possible. And here is number 9. We support all workers along our supply chains, from the sourcing and production of raw materials to the manufacturing and distribution of final products. Our workers are supported through fair wages, favorable working conditions, building safety measures, gender equality, artisan rights, the right to engage in labor unions. We also expect our partners and local suppliers to exhibit high professionalism and proper work ethics in relation to their employee within their business. Here are two examples from Modin Studio to be a little bit more practical. One with Prada and the other with Zegna. I can also mention that at Modin Studio, we don't work with fast fashion clients. Both of these builds on working with our interconnectedness with nature and each other, showcasing long-term thinking, authenticity, transparency, and the value of community. So this is a mycelium workshop we did when working with Prada Outdoor Pop-Up in Stockholm. We also work with Prada in Copenhagen or in Denmark. We have been working with Prada for many, many years, but this particularly was a very fun project with the outdoor pop-ups. So mycelium are the unseen parts of mushrooms, long threads hidden beneath the forest floor that serve as roots for mushroom. Think of them as telephone wires of nature's communication network. Through this network, plants and trees work with fungi in a symbiotic relationship. The mycelium network is a shared economy where ecosystems flourish without greed. The mycelium underfoot ensures their close-by neighbors have resources, nutrients, water, etc. they need to flourish. We could definitely learn something from the mycelium. Another workshop we did at a month-long pop-up was on the theme consciousness and time. At this cocktail and intimate dinner, we communicated Zegna's commitment to work consciously with Mother Earth by telling the story of reforestation. In 1929, the founder, Ermenegildo Zegna, planted the first tree in the area surrounding his wool mill to enrich his northern Italian homeland and the lives of local communities. Today, the forest is a thriving and biodiverse ecosystem, home to 500,000 trees and counting. The project is called Oasi Zegna. Oasi Zegna is not only a unique model of societal and environmental consciousness, but also a set of values that ultimately foster consistency and promote harmony between humankind and the environment. At the dinner, we told this story not only in words, but we also held a ceremony where the guests got a little branch each, representing a part of Mother Earth. We placed the branch in an arrangement looking like a mini forest. The guests also received a certificate that a tree from each participant got planted in Oasi Zegna. These are just but few examples on how we communicate sustainability and consciousness. Other practical examples are that we never have goodie bags. Stopped 10 years ago. We never do seedings without asking the influencer or the KOL if they would like to receive the product. I think it's very mindless to just do gifting and seedings in the number of hundreds. I know a lot of companies are doing this. We also recommend our clients to only serve vegan or vegetarian food at all events. I have much more examples if you want to talk to me afterwards. So, the next trend is moving into a new reality, a beautiful world where we have realized our true nature, where we have realized that we come from the same source, that we are one. That is the story brands will have to tell now. and the story has to be authentic. Thank you.
Yeah, Camilla, thank you. So you're working in the area of creative brand strategies and sustainable communication for many years, but actually the term communication doesn't really seem to hit what you're doing. It seems more that you're offering experience and connection to physical impressions. Why is that?
I feel that there has been too much greenwashing. I don't know if you can hear me now.
That's true. The number 2.
Yeah? Can you hear me? Yeah. I feel that there has been too much greenwashing in communication, and we need big change, as I mentioned, and the change has to come from within. There has to be a massive change. We waited too long to change, and there's a sense of urgency now, so we have to take other ways than to just communicate sustainability by saying how sustainable we are all the time, especially when it's not true.
Okay, I see. Thank you. I understand. So that's quite a passionate approach to our topic. I'm very curious if there is space for passion when it comes to regulations. Let me welcome our second keynote speaker, Carlotta Queirazza. Hello, nice that you are here. So your microphone? Yes, please take this.
Thanks.
Carlotta, you are a sustainability consultant at HESSNATUR
Yes.
Stiftung, and you are a real expert on policies and requirements you have to comply with as a company. So what are your reactions on the directives of the EU Green Deal? Are you passionate about them?
Yes, actually, I'm very passionate.
Okay.
Absolutely passionate. And let me start by saying that the European Union has delivered, in my opinion, some remarkable regulations in the last 3 to 4 years. And I really can't say it differently, because looking back at the beginning of my career, I could have only dreamed of such a regulatory framework. So yeah, absolutely, I'm totally passionate about that.
Okay, nice, good to hear that. Okay, so please give us an overview about the current directives.
And now everybody leaves.
Would you,
Just joking.
would you like to give me the microphone?
Okay. So, do you hear me good? Yes. Okay, right. So, today's topic is communication. And in my opinion, this regulation that I just mentioned, delivered in the last 3 to 4 years, they highlight essentially 3 needs. We have the need for transparency. We have the need for open and honest communication, as we just heard from Camilla. And we have also the need to gain the big picture, to have the full perspective. And let me explain why. Well, first, let's consider the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Its goal is, overall goal is to provide financial markets with ESG information and channeling in that way funding in sustainable economic activity, helping the transition to a low carbon and to a circular economy. But this directive actually doesn't impose any behavioral requirement or any performance requirement. Instead, it provides a framework for disclosing ESG information. So acting, however, also as a driver of change. Why do I say that? Well, because it's not about ticking boxes. We know what we see from our clients is that each company wants to show, to be able to say, we've done our homework, we know our material topics, we know our impacts, we know we have policies, we have targets, we have metrics, We have the necessary governance structures. So they want to be able to say that. So in that sense, the directive isn't a performance benchmark, but rather a catalyst for value, catalyst of transformation. So here we have transparency as a driver of transformation. Another key element that is emphasized in the framework of the CSRD, but also in other regulations under the Green Deal, is the stakeholder engagement or stakeholder value. And this is actually an old concept because it was introduced first in the 1980s. Stakeholder value as an alternative, as disruption from the traditional shareholder value. And here companies are expected to involve stakeholders in the strategy as at an early stage, so at the beginning, to involve them in the risk mitigation, in the target setting processes. And this isn't about passive communication or sharing decisions that have already been taken. This is about active, open, honest dialogue. So in this sense, open and honest communication with affected or potentially affected people, communities. So in that sense, stakeholder engagement allows the measurement of a company's impacts, negative and positive, in its value chain. So think about engaging with supplier on labor conditions, for instance. And in that way, you have a feedback, and that could influence your internal processes and your internal purchasing practices, for instance. At the same time, it may help you reduce the risk of human rights violation in your value chain. So stakeholder engagement as a way of honest and open communication is essential. Moving on, let's move to the next one, the Empowering Consumer for the Green Transition Directive. And I must say I love this title because it's straight to the point. Empowering consumer. This is, in fact, the aim of this directive, to support the changes needed in consumer behavior. This regulation focuses, to summarize it, in what companies cannot do. So, particularly greenwashing and misleading practices. And consumers must be empowered to make informed choices and contribute in that way to the transition that we really need. And so, honest communication to drive the change. And this directive ties closely to another one, the Green Claims Directive, which is actually not in force yet. We hope that it will come into force soon. And while the former tells company what they cannot do, while this one tells company what they can do, so how they need to do the environmental claims. And it introduces an important new rule, so to say. It's the life cycle perspective. So in that sense, gaining the full perspective, gaining the full picture. Finally, let's talk about, or let's look a little bit about the Eco-Design for Sustainable Product Regulation. This regulation is a framework directive, meaning it needs still a delegated acts, implementing acts to further specify the details. However, it sets, compared to the CSRD, which is just a reporting directive, this one sets requirements on information, but also requirements on performance of products. And all this data, so information and performance data, they need to be included in a digital product passport. And the digital product passport, this is a very important tool under this directive, but also under other directives, as the battery directive, for instance, to communicate detailed information to consumers and to actors throughout the value chain. So, What is the results of all this? We see companies that now face, on one side, they are required to have many data, to collect many data, to communicate a lot of information about internal processes, about stakeholders and governance structures. And then on the other side, they are told, watch out, because we're going to verify what you're saying. So what we are seeing is a kind of dilemma in which companies are. So they feel stuck, they don't know how to move next, they are afraid. And if we looking from the perspective of the company, and then if we move now from the perspective of the consumer, well, in my opinion, there is an important question that arises, which is, we saw that through the digital product passport, through the reports, we're going to provide consumers with a lot of information. And the question that I pose is, will providing more information really lead to a better decision? And we know that decision-making often isn't purely rational. We have emotions, we have experiences, we have memories. They all play a significant role. And I bring you an example. I think you can relate to that. Imagine you are hungry and you are at the counter and you have to take the decision. You have a salad and you have a cheeseburger. Yeah, you have all the information you need, but who knows what will be actually your decision. So we know that rationally the salad might make sense, but emotional factors often tip the scale. So, to conclude, I see two factors are essential when it comes to sustainability communication: simplification and authentic narrative, as we heard from Camilla. Take the digital product passport, for instance. While companies must collect excessive data about the products, not all data is relevant for all actors in the value chain. So here, the strong need to simplify the necessary information to the necessary actors. Also, we have many complex concepts in sustainability. It's really a broad field. So if we want our partners, our stakeholders to understand what we are doing, we need to simplify in a way that is appropriate to the person and to the group of stakeholders. Then we have to focus on the narrative. In what sense? In the sense that probably companies, because they have to collect so many data, they often lose the track. What is the narrative that they want to tell? Is that really focused on what is material for the company? So in that sense, also in the process of setting targets and working with all those data, the company needs to stay focused on its narrative. And also think that they cannot solve all the problems all at once, and they're not also required to do so. And one important thing that I really want to say is that, oh, I'm sorry, just jumped, is that the narrative must be authentic, as also Camilla said before. So we also want companies to be able to talk about their challenges, their setbacks, the cost of transition, because that is part of that. And actually, I think that is what interests people most, the difficulties, because maybe we can relate more to that. So that is essentially what I recommend. Simplify and also focus on an authentic communication, an authentic narrative. And in that sense, I think we should reclaim sustainability communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carlotta. Would you also join us for a short ping-pong session? Thank you very much. So, Camilla, when you invite to a B2C dinner, do you serve salad or hamburger? How do you do it?
We only serve vegan and vegetarian food, as I mentioned earlier, but it could be a vegan hamburger. To be honest, that salad didn't look too good.
Yeah, but in addition to these innovative formats, or rather as a foundation for these formats, there is this clear framework of transparent reporting and traceability of data, which you, Carlotta, has just impressively explained to us. So where exactly should a company offer these insights? Within the digital product passport, or on the website, or on which channel?
Yeah,
And how, to add a second question directly, how can you help consumers who lose the overview of the information?
As I briefly mentioned before, well, first of all, companies, they will have to communicate those, collect those data and include those data in the digital product passport. But what is important is that these data are then filtered and simplified to the actor or to the stakeholder that will be using them. And for instance, I can tell you that I'm using very often this app that evaluates or gives an evaluation of food and cosmetics. And what I see immediately is like a value, like poor, good, very good. And that helps me. And then when I have the time and the interest, then I tick on this and I can see the sources of that information. And really imagine it to be like that, like for users, for consumers to be able to have very simple information, a digital product passport, tac, poor, good, and so on. And then if you're interested, they will have that information to click on. And then, so in that sense, they need to have the data, and they need to have it simplified then for users. And regarding the website, of course they need to communicate. So that is a little bit the dilemma that I was mentioned before. Mm-hmm. They need to have those data, and they need to have the courage to communicate about that and be honest. And as I said before, use those data, tell what you have to do, be focused on what is really your point, what is really the impact that you want to have. In that sense, communicate on your website.
So we have on the one hand the consumer that needs help, but also the companies, they need help too. On that area we have a communication challenge as well, not only because the directives are a good tool against greenwashing, but now arises the new problem of greenwashing. Greenwashing is a phenomenon that describes that companies who actually take a big effort into sustainability strategies no longer dare to talk about it because they are simply afraid that they get disciplined or sentenced. So we have the field from company to consumer, but also B2B area. So how do you encourage really the companies to go on?
Yeah, I mean, they must go on, as we heard from Camilla. Climate change is not going away, it's going to stay. It's a very high risk for companies. The World Economic Forum published last week the report 2025 Global Risk, and extreme weather were second position, just following conflicts. So it's a risk, it's definitely a risk for company. Human rights violation, environmental risk, damage, they are a risk for a company. So they just have to work on that and start working as soon as possible. And
very true perspective, yes. So just to touch another level of communication that I was just asking myself for from your working reality, like when you as a sustainability consultant are working together with a client company and its sustainability manager that is also cooperating with an external brand strategist. So how do you all manage to run into the same direction? I guess that's a challenge too. Camilla, what's your...
Yeah, but it's a challenge that I personally love because I think it's so important that we all work together. It has been common in the past, at least, that it's very separate, that when it comes to the communication agency, it's already decided what to say and sometimes how to say it. but we actually have some knowledge in what works and what doesn't work. So I love to work with people like Carlotta and to work closely together with experts on things that I'm not an expert on. And I think it will be a necessity in the future to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can add just
Yes, please.
one word. So yeah, I mean, we need to work together. We need to align also to make sure that cross-functional meetings find regularly place. And yeah, I see totally that we also, as sustainability expert, as a sustainability consultant, we need also to be able to communicate. As I said, simplification is essential, but we're not always that good at it. So we definitely need those.
And I have to add, I love that you use simplification also in your presentation. It has to be simple.
Do you actually have an example of a strategy that went completely wrong?
No, not the whole strategy that I've done, I'm honest. But there is an example from Sweden.
Don't name the company.
No. Okay. No, I will try to tell it briefly. A company that did a sustainability campaign, fast fashion company. I won't mention any names, I promise. They hired Sweden's top influencer. I'm sure it cost a lot of money. My guess is a few million Swedish kronors. The promise was to plant a forest.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was an offer on a product. And if you buy this product, X amount will go to planting trees. And I think they mentioned forest in the campaign. And this influencer talked half passionately about this campaign. And they did some kind of investigation, what happened with this. And what they found was that there were just a few plants planted in Copenhagen on a field, like in a corner of a field. That was the forest, and it didn't bring any money to restoration of Mother Earth. So it was like a big failure. It came out, and this is an example of when talking about sustainability gets so wrong and ruins for the rest of us that wants to do it in an honest way.
So the challenge is to close the gap between what you're doing and how you're talking about it. Thank you both very much. You will both be available at the networking reception right after. So if you want to continue to exchange with Carlotta and Camilla, don't hesitate to contact them in the networking. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now I'm thinking, where is the potential in implementing the impulses we just heard? And what does it look like in practice? It is in the tradition of the Future of Fashion conference that we let German and Swedish companies report on their working reality. So let's turn to an international fashion and lifestyle company that was founded in Sweden and is now based in Germany. I am very happy to welcome Julian Aisslinger, Head of Sustainability, Innovation and Responsible Communication at Marco Polo.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for coming. I had been looking at your website before, and I found there a very intelligent sentence from a marketing perspective. There it says, our mission is to be the most sustainable version of Marco Polo.
Yes.
Who formulated the sentence? Was that you?
Actually, together with Marc, another person on the marketing team, we did that together. Yeah, I think it's. I've seen similar sentence somewhere else, so I don't think it's. I think we're not the only company who's thinking in that direction, but. Yeah, we think it's a good sentence.
Yeah, it is. Respect. So I'm really curious about your report. The stage is yours. And
yeah, I'm thinking maybe I just stay here. Actually,
okay, yes,
do you have
a
clicker? The clicker?
No, but you can just.
I think that's going to be complicated.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much. And as already introduced, the company was founded in Stockholm, and it's now based in Germany. And I've actually decided to bring in one of the oldest campaigns from Sweden here that you see in the background. And I think it's interesting because we've done a customer research a few years ago, and a lot of our German customers, who are most of our customers, said they would like the styles to be a bit more Swedish again. So I think we're a Swedish company based in Germany, producing for German customers who want to look like Swedish people. So I think that sums it up pretty well. Yes, yes. Exactly. So a little bit about the history. So the company was founded in 1967 and was really founded on the idea to use natural materials. And we had an Only Nature's Materials campaign. We had Raw collection, which was a monofiber collection, like a little bit ahead of its time at this time. Then later we started to use organic cotton, we banned fur, we started to use recycled fibers. This is when we got a little bit away from the only natural materials. We've started a big partnership with Widerström, which I think is a very powerful partnership when we think of communication. Have an existing partnership with Circular Fashion, who we produced over 150 styles, DFC, so Design for Circularity styles with. And last year we received the Fairwear Leader status, which has been a very big achievement for us, considering the social responsibility in the supply chain. So this is a little about the history of our biggest milestones. And so, yeah, we really think a lot about this question of how can we communicate sustainability more elegantly. And maybe just to bring a few numbers, 67% per se, sustainability is a must. And a lot of people, more than 50%, also say they look for styles, especially who take into account fair working conditions and sustainability. But when you see it, this is less than people, this is a consumer insight survey we've done ourselves in the company. It's less than 2021. So this kind of desire for sustainability, we see this is actually going down currently. And this is a graph I wanted to bring with you. It's basically just showing how much Google searches have there been about greenwashing, and you also can see it really there's really been a big peak in 2023. Now it's going a little bit down again. And the sectors which are most associated to greenwashing are energy, banking, and third is retail and fashion, followed then by food. So this is just a bit to describe the landscape currently. So we said, okay, it's time to advance our approach. And I'm going to talk about, like, let's say 6 philosophies, 6 approaches that we've identified for ourselves. Of course, we need to respond to the regulation, holistic certifications, the onion method, added value, cultural credibility, and brand ownership. And I'm just going to quickly walk you through these points today and hope you can take something with you. So first of all, almost 50% of the green claims lack evidence. This is from a research page from the European Commission. And this has also fueled the creation of the Green Claims Directive. Here's some more statistics, and I think what's one interesting point. So trust has really been lost, and especially there's a lot of vague statements and a lot of environmentally friendly, a lot of sustainable, and these kind of things that we can't really use anymore now. And what we've done to tackle that, we've created an anti-greenwashing guideline. And this is really a document that every person in the company had to read once. I hope they all did. And this has been, we developed this together with the legal department, with NÖR, which is a big legal firm, and Utopia, which in Germany is the biggest, let's say, knowledge platform for sustainability. So in conjunction, we've created this greenwashing guideline. It's a very long technical document, but it's really laying out how we should comply with this new law. So this is, I'm not going to go into this in detail now, but I think it's just, just wanted to mention that this has really been, let's say, the foundation for everything we're doing. And let's say one example, which has also been, let's say, a fundamental shift, as we've moved, before we had a goal in our earlier strategy, by 2023, we will only sell sustainable products. And this has really been the North Star of our strategy before. And since we cannot label products now as sustainable anymore, we really had to change this. And this has been also a big cultural change within the product teams. And now we have the new goal. By 2030, Marco Polo will only use preferred fibers. And I just wanted to ask a quick show of hands, who knows what a preferred fiber is here in this room? Yeah, okay, maybe 1/3, okay. So this is I'm not going to go also in detail with this, but this is a new term that has been used by the Textile Exchange, which I think is a little bit like the UN sometimes in the fashion industry. And I think you will see this term a lot more. The CPO asked me once, Julian, this sounds like the fibers that we prefer, that we like better, but it's usually the more sustainable version of a conventional fiber. So yeah, second point, so we try to give up a little bit the one-size-fits-all approach and now developed a bit the onion model. And the onion model is exactly a little bit alluding to the fact that was discussed also earlier, like complexity and simplicity. And our motivation is we have 1.2 million members in our community, so people who have a Marco Polo card or something similar like that. And we said, okay, they're all different. Some people are interested in sustainability, some others are not. And we kind of, I'm not going to walk you through the details, but we've kind of said, okay, when you, in the beginning of your journey, which is maybe a TV ad or an out-of-home, a big sign, or in the digital sphere, that you have a performance marketing in the beginning, that's where it has to be really simple. And when you get closer and closer and closer to the product, to the care label, to the hang tags, that's when we get a bit more detailed with the information. And then if the customer really wants to go into it, they can scan a QR code, they can go to a traceability page where we really get a little bit more detailed. So in this way, we kind of have a little bit of a customized approach. The customer who really wants to go deep can go deep. The customer who is not interested doesn't have to. So yeah, so maybe just as an example, so this is when you enter the windows now. We said, okay, we wanted to really the type of materials or fibers that we have converted fully to preferred from a conventional fiber. We wanted to put that outside of the window, so you know, okay, if you enter a store, every product that you will find with cotton is going to be organic or recycled cotton. And this is a very clear, simple message, we believe, and I think this can be powerful. And then as an example, when you want to go a little bit more into it, we have a partnership with Retraced, and then you can really scan a QR code and you can look through the whole supply chain. We don't have full traceability until tier 4, so raw material extraction yet, but we're at tier 2 right now, and by 2030 you will have the whole supply chain. So this just as a few examples for the onion method. Then for added value, so we, an agency we work together with, HESSNATUR, they published a report of like, what are the drivers of desirability for a new generation? And what we really see for Gen X and Gen Z, sustainability is high, functionality is also high, and also the emotional connection people have to brands. And so we said, okay, this is also something we have to kind of infuse into our sustainability communication. And we've kind of developed this model, and we often really say, okay, how can we kind of create these little moments? And for example, what we've done for emotionality, we said, okay, we have a care and repair kit that we give with an archive collection that we had. It's a small gesture, but something in that direction. Then for functionality, what has been a very powerful tool, we have developed a button that you can screw off the jeans so that it becomes more recyclable, and you can kind of screw that off, and you can kind of turn it and it comes off. And I think this has what we've learned a lot from store managers, that this is very cool. They can show it to the customer, and it's a bit like an aha moment, like, okay, that's how it works. You can detach the different materials, and I think that's really also nice to give something to the people in the stores which they can show, and then they also feel empowered. Another example is vouchers for bringing take back. I think that's more of a no-brainer for the economic value. So then holistic certifications. This is also something we invest a lot of money into the certification processes, but also something we have from the consumer insights. 46% of the customers say they are confused. It's too many certifications. They don't really know what they mean. So we also decided, okay, let's also invest into a holistic certification. B Corp, again, a show of hands. How many of you know what a B Corp is? Okay, more than half, I would say. Yeah. So this is really also something that we hope to achieve this year, and I think this is something that makes it much more simple. I really believe in this certification because it goes across industries. So it can also scale across industries, and it's not a fashion-specific thing. Number 4, building cultural credibility. And this is also the motivation we've kind of had for this is people are very skeptical, especially in Germany. I've taken a few how skeptical people are in different countries. So France, Germany, very skeptical. Scandinavian nations a bit more optimistic, a bit less skeptical. But generally, we're all quite skeptical. And so we said, okay, to counter this, we kind of need cultural credibility. And so traceability, I've mentioned that. Something that was also now pointed out, communicate challenges. That's worked very well with us. So we also said, okay, we had a big leather dilemma, for example. Do we use LVG leather? Do we use vegan leather? Like, what's the better solution? And there was a big discussion in the company. And we've kind of openly communicated that. And I think that also gives trust upon the consumer. Credible personalities, and also what I'm really excited about is process videos, factory portraits, to also kind of give a visual transparency to the customer. Exactly, and this will come out this year as well, a fair wear leader video where we really show what does the fair wear status mean, what does it look like in our supply chain, and I think it's nice to kind of bring the people who are working in the factories to the center stage. Last point, refining brand ownership, and this is maybe a topic we also discussed a lot in the last year, and also when we developed the new strategy. And the way we kind of think about it is that we have so much regulation, there's so much coming up with the CSRD and many more other things. And our sustainability strategy is becoming also very compliance driven. But that's really the big part of the iceberg in the bottom. But what do we actually want to be? And that's maybe also one other thing to say, everybody has to do that. So that's also not going to differentiate us in the market. And so what we really said, okay, we kind of need to see what is the top of the iceberg, what do we want other brands to associate to us and to connect to the brand. And so we developed this idea of ownership, and this is like the top of the iceberg. And we've developed 3 topics. It sounds simple now, but there was a lot of discussion about this. And we decided, okay, we really come from this background of natural materials. So this is an ownership topic, longevity and human empowerment. And for us, this is also, you could say, a filter that we only communicate topics, or when we also invest into videos or bigger campaigns, that we always take the filter of these 3. Is the topic connected to one of these 3 topics? And the rest of it, we don't really pursue with a lot of investment. At the same time, when we look at our innovation strategy, those are the 3 topics that we use where we want to then pursue innovation. And I'm not going to go through all the projects we started, but maybe one example for natural materials, we started support regenerative farming projects. For human empowerment, we started supporting kindergartens in our supply chain. And another one that we're exploring now for longevity is how a lifelong warranty could look like. We're exploring this together with a few universities. Let's see what comes out of that. But this is a little bit some project we started to strengthen this ownership. And yes, this was it. A bit of summary again. And those are one of the oldest campaigns again from Sweden. I thought it's a funny picture.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this intense and speedy lecture.
I had a lot of slides.
That was great. Thank you. So we are lucky enough to have you later on at the panel, so we can ask Julian further questions later on the open discussion. Thank you for now.
Thank you very much.
I think this was quite a good example how to bridge the gap between dry matter and a passionate consumer messaging. So let's now pay attention to a company that works very closely with customers and that directly started out as a sustainable company, the Avocado Store. Avocado Store is an online marketplace for eco-fashion and green lifestyle. It has 10 sustainability criteria with which they evaluate every product on their marketplace and which consumers can use to decide whether this product meets their demands or not. The managing director, Henrik Voss, unfortunately cancelled us yesterday for health reasons, so he cannot be here with us, but he sent us a video.
Hello everyone. So I deeply apologize that I couldn't make it. So my little daughter knocked me out. Not the first time. The little beast. Therefore I give my best that this format works for you. There's always something good in it, so I love Swedish fika, and I do not count when I start eating. Means there's then more for you, huh? Yeah, my name is Henrik Voss, and I'm the managing director of Avocado Store. And as I've been told to build relation to Sweden, I can tell you Sweden is a great country, and usually my family likes it to explore new countries and new cultures. But we have been in Sweden now 5 years in a row, and to make at least 1 week vacation and joining a moose park and get a kiss of a moose is an experience of a lifetime. Highly recommended. So I live in Potsdam, so if you throw in Köttbullar right now, there's a good chance to hit me. So beside the key facts, which you see here, our target group are conscious consumers with purchasing power. Avocado Store also operates internally as a holistically sustainable company. We make around about 50 million GMV with 50 employees. We have international sellers and buyers, but currently operating in Germany. So why Avocado Store? Maybe saying some words about it. 15 years ago, the founders referred to an eco-like movement in the US where the name came from. So nowadays, they probably would pick a different name as the avocado. As we all know from environmental perspective, this is probably not the best choice. But so be it, and we live with that, and move on from there. That's we are working on, and sustainability is the core of our company. And if we say we offer an alternative for every conventional product, then we know we have a long way ahead, as fashion is with almost 80% the strongest category. But there are great sustainable alternatives in other categories that we would like to show as well. So we bring together sellers and buyers, and we provide our customers as much transparency as possible. So the sellers are checked by our team in a multi-stage process. Each product is handpicked by the team. So we try to look beyond the sustainability claims and look at the products holistically. We actively seek exchange with brands and providers. So we are pursuing the idea of a network in which we can make the industry more sustainable as a whole, together with retailers, brands, and other marketplaces and certifiers. So we are also in a good contact with our customers who are critically question what they buy from us in a positive sense. At Avocado Store, we have relied on our 10 sustainability criteria since the company was founded, so that our retailers can provide transparent and honest information about their products, and our customers can make sustainable purchasing decisions. From our point of view, the only thing that helps is transparent and honest sustainability communication that continues to develop and takes new circumstances and findings into account. We demand this from our retailers and from ourselves. At Avocado Store, for example, we have not been advertising with the term climate neutral for a long time, because in our view, the focus should be on reducing CO2 emissions and not on offsetting them CO2 emissions via voluntary CO2 certificates. Our sellers do not need to fulfill all 10 criteria. Sometimes 1 or 2 are totally fine if the rest fits as well. As Caroline told me from the HESSNATUR Stiftung, she talked to me and she said, okay, in preparation of the event, she asked me if we also offer Swedish products. And I said, I have to do a little research, and was totally surprised how many are available on our platform, from really small manufacturers with 1 or 2 employees to larger Swedish companies with over 100 employees, and they all fulfilled the criteria, which is great. So here's also a Swedish product, and this is how it looks like at the product detail page. At the right side, you see the Avocado store criteria, which fits to the product description. And this gives then transparency and a good overview for all our consumers. In addition, sellers have the possibility to build a seller page and tell a little deeper for what they stand for, so consumers get the chance to get more information of the company. As you see here, another Swedish company. So the Green Claims Directive, is it curse or blessing? Or blessing? Or blessing? Yeah, I mean, it supports our criteria, which is very transparent, expected by our customer. It brings the values and beliefs back to the companies, which work very hard for sustainable anyways. It gives us guidance in decision making. It pays in our why, so said in our core business. But it is for smaller companies more time consuming to adapt to the guidelines compared to the larger ones, as resources are much more limited. So the danger of greenwashing always exists in all areas. Overall, it empowers us to make a sustainable market more transparent. So therefore, we look very positive through the upcoming Green Claims Directive and see that as real benefit for our business. So if you want to try out our platform, feel free to do so. And maybe you would like to buy the pinboard here made out of cork. It's probably the right thing for you. So thanks for having me, and I wish you a pleasant rest of the day. Bye-bye.
So thank you very much, Henrik Voss. Maybe you are in the live stream. Thanks for your contribution. And now that we have gained really interesting insights into two very lively companies, we will get some more seats. That's really nice. We want to expand now the circle by another dimension in the panel discussion, as multi-stakeholder dialogues are becoming increasingly important, as are the different levels and channels of communication. Yeah. With the grüner Knopf, the green button, we now also bring a political voice into the talk. The grüner Knopf is our state seal for sustainable textiles. It is issued by the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, das Bundesministerium für wirtschaftliche Zusammenarbeit und Entwicklung. So let me welcome to the panel from Grüner Knopf Secretariat, Dr. Christine Moser-Priwig. Hello. Nice that you're here. Please choose your seat. Yeah, maybe here. So you're not only head of Green Button Secretariat, but you're also the team lead in the social ecological transformation of textile supply chain project. One of the team leads for the Green Button. Yeah, the team leads. Okay, super. So thanks for coming. So then we have Regional Sustainability Manager at H&M Central Europe, Victor Birken. Thanks for coming. And Eli Blessing, the Communication Manager of the Sipotex Cooperative from Amsterdam. And Julian Aisslinger, would you join us to the panel? Thank you very much. And Rolf, would you be kind enough to take over the moderation, because then I can concentrate on the signals from the audience, because now you are invited to join the conversation. So if you have anything to say or to ask, please give us a sign, and one of our helpers will provide you with microphones.
Oh, wow, this is a great pleasure for me. Thank you very much, Cläre. Yeah, thank you for being here. How do you feel? For me, it is absolutely interesting for today. I was sure when we were looking for a topic for today, Karina, communication, sustainable communication, that is so powerful and so full with potential. Well, I have a lot of questions, and yeah, I hope to come in a dialogue. We have real different experts with maybe different kind of views. Let's see. I will start with Victor from H&M. Maybe you can introduce yourself, Victor. But let me start directly with the first question. Very simple, but I'm sure for you, for your company, it is not simple. How important is sustainability for your brand and for the company?
Hello. Oh. Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having us here today. Amazing place, amazing crowd. We're very happy to be here as H&M, of course. I am representing Germany, but also H&M Central Europe, which consists of Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland, and Slovenia. Just wanted to clear that out also as an intro. I live in Berlin now. Originally, I'm from Russia, but I've been working for H&M for about 9 years now. I'm very proud of this, and I think this is also a testament of what kind of company we are. And of course, sustainability is one of the key elements of why I stayed so long with the company. And it's really ingrained in everything we do. As a Swedish brand, we have a legacy of being consistent when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to taking care of all the materials and resources that we use. But of course, being one of the largest retailers in the world, we understand an immense responsibility to take care of the planet, the people, but also make sure that all of the products that we create have value. And that is why it's such an honor to see the ambassador wearing an H&M rental, looking beautiful also. And of course, it's tricky sometimes, especially when it comes to our segment, speaking about sustainability, but it really doesn't stop what we do in the background, behind the scenes. Not many people maybe know about this. But we're very much committed to sustainability in everything we do. It started a long time ago, so this is not the first year or even the first decade. We've been doing this for about 30 years. And of course, it has evolved. So I'm very intrigued and excited to see all the regulations that are coming out, because it really helps us. Sometimes it's a bit challenging, of course, to comply. But of course, we also are probably #1 brand and target when it comes to, challenging sustainability communication. Yet sometimes people forget that we also were the ones to popularize sustainable communication, talking about materials, talking about, what do you do with your clothing after you no longer need it, talking about rental, and now our crown jewel, pre-loved secondhand, is our new also effort that we want to make sure is ingrained into the customer behavior. So it's quite a lot of work that's been done, and I'm excited today to maybe give you a little bit of insight on that, but I don't know if that was enough for the first remark.
Yeah, but maybe I can, if it's okay for you, I will go directly a little bit deeper. Insights, for me, it could be interesting to hear. Of course, sustainability is a journey, needs a defined roadmap that what we heard before. And in the meanwhile, you made different experience. How was with the conscious collection, and how do you include it in general in your collections in the meanwhile?
Yeah, this is, I think, one of the first initiatives that we started a long time ago, and it had to do a lot with the materials, but also labeling some of the products so that the customers understand the difference, understand the value, but also can target the products that they desire that are more sustainable. Of course, the cotton, organic cotton, was one of the crown jewels of that collection, but also recycled materials, more sustainable materials, innovative materials, and we were quite successful in integrating that into our product basket. And communicating about this. So this was kind of an iconic sign of sustainability for us, at least internally, but also hopefully externally. And it consisted of a very simple green label that had the word conscious on it. And we talked about consciousness today. I think this is also quite an appropriate name for it. However, in the recent years, of course, we've been targeted for that, because what does that mean specifically? What's behind that claim? Also the green color was quite triggering for a lot of people, specifically in legislation. So we're no longer able to use that specific word. We're no longer able to use a specific color, but it doesn't mean that we stopped caring about the materials, and making sure that the material basket is more sustainable or consists of preferred materials, which is kind of, we can relate to that as well. So now if you go to the H&M store, you probably will not see that word. You will not see the green color on the label, but you can be rest assured that the majority of the materials that we use are more sustainable or preferred. And how to check that, how to verify that, of course, sustainability report, which comes out every year. It's going to come out in middle of the spring this year, and then you can all take a look, of course, all verified by third parties, but there you can see that over 80% of materials that we use in our products are more sustainable, recycled, organic, etc. So the journey has been quite tough. We're very proud of making sure that, you know, that name conscious is known. It's quite interesting sometimes our colleagues are so stuck to the idea of conscious that now they use that word just in conversation and they say conscious, 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 which they mean sustainable. So we've been successful in making sure that's introduced to the market, but now we have to face the realities of, you know, that we have to also comply with a lot of legislation, and that we have to be consistent with the way that our customers are expecting our products to be. But again, even if it's disappearing, it's still there. And I invite everyone to check that for themselves on the product page, also on our website. There's much more information like Marco Polo in terms of where the product is produced, what kind of material, but also explaining the benefits of the material. So it's evolving fast. But if I have to summarize, we're quite proud of it, and we're lucky to have this experience over 10 years when it was on the market.
So I have a little smile. Why? Because you were talking about transparency and so on, and I was working in the Textilbündnis in Germany, and for many, many years, and in the beginning there was a big discussion, oh, we do not have information along the full supply chain. It is so hard to get, and now in the meanwhile we talk about tier 3 and 4 and so on. This is very interesting. Yeah, but that's what I always say. We have to. That is a process. We have to learn. We have to go, and yeah, it takes time. On the other hand, we have to agree. That's it. We're talking about now a lot of in between brands and the consumer, but Eli, maybe you can introduce yourself, and directly with my first question then, you're working more in the area of B2B business, and how is your feeling? Is there any big difference in marketing and communication?
Yes, thank you, Rolf. Hello, I'm Eli Vlessing, and happy to be here. Although this whole event is organized around fashion, our company, Cybertex, is concerned with business textiles, and business textiles is everything that is not fashion. For example, all the textiles coming from airlines, from hotels, restaurants, hospitals, prisons even. All kinds of very similar textiles concentrated on one or a few locations, very suitable for recycling and reusing in the production process. And that's exactly what Cybertex does. We try to close the loop for those kind of textiles. So we have a lot of B2B members. We're a corporation, and all these members either handle or have large amounts of textiles that we can very effectively and efficiently recycle and reuse in the production process. Basic reason, of course, reduce the amount of natural resources used by our textile industry, and even important as in the fashion industry, reduce the amount of trash that we dump in the world. So that's basically what we do. To answer your question, yes, there's a lot of differences between fashion or consumption textiles, consumer textiles and business textiles. Like I said, the business textiles are more monochrome in their composition. There are less components in it. They're simpler in their construction. They're smarter often in their design because there's very many produced in only one variation. If you look at hospital wear, it only needs sizes, but the style and the colors are all the same. So we have a lot of opportunities, in my opinion, more than in consumer fashion, to create and to organize recycling. And we try to make that happen.
Yeah, the technical challenges are quite high when you talk about natural fibers, but for working clothes, you're talking about industrial washing processes and all these things, and so that's totally agree. You have very often, or there's a need of blends between polyester and cotton and so on. Yeah, sustainable fashion is very complex. That we heard before. We were talking about holistic approaches, and yeah, you can get a lot of headache, and but what we heard this afternoon, a first way to come out is to simplify it. You said it. This is my favorite mantra. People maybe heard too often from me. Yeah, we have to simplify. And Christine, to simplify, when I'm in conference, very often I'm the only guy who's absolutely a fan of labels. People always talking, oh, there's a label jungle and all these things. And my answer or my argument always is, yeah, but with this label, you have a chance. There is one icon, there is one sentence, and that you have a chance to include a lot of things, isn't it? And I'm lucky that you have time to share your experience with us, Christine. Yeah, my first question, maybe you can introduce yourself as well. Christine, do you agree that is a good key for open a complex field of different arguments and so on?
Thank you, first of all, for having me, and good afternoon, everyone. As you said earlier, my name is Christine Moser-Priewig. I had the Green Button Secretariat here in Germany, and I've been with the Green Button for the past 5 years. Before that, I have been a consultant also for the Textile Partnership, which is a sister initiative, also sort of initiated by the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And I've also been a researcher, actually, exactly in the field of sustainability certification. So to answer your question, yeah. I do have a bit of an ambiguous relationship towards labels. You said earlier I bring a political perspective maybe to this round. Why am I a bit ambiguous? Let me start with why I do like labels. Yes, simplification is one reason, and I agree. In a global economy with global supply chains, obviously this is one of the best tools that we have to transport information, to signal to customers and to consumers that a piece of fashion or another textile product, in your case, has been produced sustainably or more sustainably. And obviously they are filling gaps, right? We don't have, or we're now having more and more regulation in place, also a big fan, but this is, I mean, labels and structures behind them, certifications and audits, they are filling a gap of not enough regulation or not enforced regulation, and they mobilize consumers for this good or for this cause. The good thing is also they can be laboratories of change. Right, they can be laboratories of innovations and so on, but I do struggle with the mere fact that we rely on private market mechanisms to provide for actually what are public goods. I do struggle with this, and I think this is also why we see proliferation. I mean, we've heard it earlier, Julian referred to this. We have so many labels, it's a jungle out there. There are too many, it causes confusion, it causes cost, both on the beneficiaries, which should be workers, all of us, but then also that proliferation and that jungle of labels causes definitely costs, and the proliferation also results in competition. That competition, and that is a problem that we see addressed by the green claims, which we are thankful for, that competition creates sort of a race to the bottom dynamic, especially in the way the audits are done. So not all of those labels out there are credible, which, like I said, I'm glad that green claims is coming up. Another thing I'm not a big fan of is, especially classic product labeling schemes have been targeting mostly, or have been burdening mostly, supply chain actors and have caused costs there. It has been mostly, they have been mostly the focus of certification schemes, so that then brands can label their products. And that, so again, coming back to a strength that labels have, and I think Green Button has, is it's not a coincidence that we have in a laboratory a bit of change on mainly two areas, because we are a dual approach. We are more of a holistic system, because we, first of all, in the first pillar that the Green Button has, are the first full-fledged due diligence, human rights and environmental due diligence system for certification out there, and we do target brands and retailers, but also B2B textile companies, and that's the first, like we are the first of the kind, and we have been paving the way for the German Supply Chain Act, and have been preparing companies working with the Green Button to be compliant and to work towards legislation. And the other pillar is our so-called meta-label approach, targeted at other labels that are already existing. The idea here is that if companies want to use the Green Button on their products, we ask them to show that they do work already with credible systems like Fairware. You've been mentioning this before, but also Oekotex and GOTS. So we recognize other labels to make sure we do not create another scheme that yet causes more confusion, but to actually sort of simplify communication towards consumers by providing orientations towards what are credible labels. And so that dual approach, as I said, I think has been driving a lot of change in the sector, and has been most of all instrumental in preparing companies and the sector for human rights and environmental due diligence.
Christine, I remember in the beginning, in this developing process, our institute were involved, and for this holistic principle was very important for me, and what you said, to agree this and this standards, and in the end, that's last year what we said before here, same place, is in the meanwhile sustainability is not one tone, ecology, it's an accord with social standards, with this due diligence, with this governance aspects as well. And so, yeah, I really love this way to agree this and this labels, and in the end you have to be in this due diligence, what you say, you have to be certified, both, and this is a good principle. But I remember in the beginning the Green Button 1.0. In this multi-stakeholder dialogue, we had a lot of discussion. Is it ambitioned enough, and so on? And yeah, what I as well always said, wait, let's learn. We need learning processes. That's what I always say. And then you had this 2.0, and I absolutely can say this is quite more ambition, and it's not so easy with your hand to get with your hand in the pocket, to be honest, because we know it. We help different companies to get this, and but my question to you is, what about 3.0? What about does it includes more? It will come, of course, more of these aspects. We heard, for example, from Carlotta with these Green Deal aspects and directives.
Yes, it will come, of course, as you said. Actually, we announced at our 5-year conference, which took place last November, that we are gonna start a process of revision towards, let's say, it's working title Green Button 3.0. we said earlier the Green Claims Directive is to come, so let's see how we can label the green button or how we can name it in the future. Yeah, absolutely, we're in the making. I mean, this massive massive wave of regulation, which we welcome, affects us as well. Most of all, green claims does, obviously. And as I said earlier, personally, from a political viewpoint, I welcome it, but also from the perspective of the green button, because like I said earlier, we have this dual approach, and we see that brands do have still quite an over-reliance on auditing and certification. Not all of them are robust, henceforth not all claims made by certification labels are robust, and we have been pioneering in this field by also using a national accreditation approach. In fact, the Green Button is the first label, a sustainability label that has a full-fledged accreditation, national accreditation of its certification bodies, and so we welcome it as a way of leveling the playing field. And I think to brands and retailers, we really can offer then a holistic approach that then is also sort of compliant with Green Button. But then, as you said earlier, there are so many more. For us, we look mostly, with a human rights environmental due diligence approach. For us, CSDDD is where we look at mostly. It does set the bar a bit higher. A lot of our requirements, as you said earlier, with the new standard, the 2.0, are already aligned with the CSDDD requirements, but we have quite a few other requirements, especially in the environmental sphere, that we would need to adjust, and we're looking forward to sort of raise the bar to make sure companies are CSDDD compliant and beyond. But then, yeah, we're also obviously looking at ESPR, at product passport, because of course, from a governmental run scheme, both brands, retailers, as well as our consumers, they want us to, continue to have a holistic approach and to sort of set a framework where most of these aspects are combined. And so, yeah, the revision will probably be informed by all of this, but it will be a stakeholder process. And so let's see.
Yeah, let's see. If we have time later on, I want to go deeper. For example, how big is the challenge between fashion and workwear? Yeah, anyway, but maybe we can come back to this later. Julian, you gave us a lot of insights, and it was very interesting and very impressive presentation. So I have the chance to go directly a bit deeper, and this is a closed room here, so I can place my question. How is how does it work? The in between, to make it simple, in between marketing and buyer. You know what I mean? For example, from your marketing side, you worked out, but I'm sure you did it not alone. This is you have to include all the different department. How does it work? And is there a different comparing 10 years before with this different interest of CSR department, marketing, and the buyers?
Let's put the buyers to the side for a moment. But I think what we've changed, or the structure we had in the past, is that we had a marketing team and a sustainability team, and I think it was not really the dynamic was sometimes that marketing teams are prone to communicate something a bit in a greenwashing way. This was, let's say, a little bit of a sentiment, and I think there was a lot of capacity building and knowledge transfer necessary. What we've done now, almost 2 years ago, we set up a new unit called Responsible Communication, which I'm responsible for as well. And this is why we concentrated kind of this whole arena of sustainability communication there. There's a few people from the sustainability department, a few people from the marketing department. So it's a bit of like a transitory team, you could say, or a fluid team. And I think it's good because we really changed our sustainability communication approach. I showed you some of the examples. I think it's been good to do that, to kind of get these ownership topics going, to kind of refine a new strategy and a new approach. At the same time, when you make some people responsible, everybody else feels less responsible for a topic. And I think this is also something that we're seeing right now. And I could also imagine that we choose a more diffused, decentralized approach to this topic again in the future. I think for now it's been the right strategy, but and of course there's also people from the not exactly the buying team, but also the product team, so the product managers. They're also part of this team in the rounds, of course. Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. This is a good tradition here in-house to open the discussion for all of you. Cläre, can you...
I would like to borrow one microphone. Maybe Victor, are you kind enough? Because I just had the information that we are in lack of microphones and we have a question here.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I have a question to you, Julian. It's a very specific question, and you informed us about a decision that you went from talking about sustainability to preferred. So now I'm wondering, since I'm sure that more brands might use this strategy, how do you make sure to communicate it simple to the consumer, what preferred materials are? If most of this room doesn't really know what it is, though it is a B2B thing from Textile Exchange, I don't think it has been registered or something as a name, and I'm sure that decision was made maybe based on the Green Claims Directive. So I'm wondering at this point, how do you make sure to substantiate, which is the aim of the Green Claims Directive, the term preferred?
Okay, yes. We decided not to use the word preferred in our external communication. It's just something we use internally, exactly for the reasons you pointed out. Nobody really understands it. Plus, most of our customers are in the DACH region or Benelux or Scandinavia, and I think we are pretty sure it's not really going to work out for now. Maybe that's changed in 3-4 years. So we're not using that. Instead, I didn't bring this because I thought it's going to get a bit too complex, but we created a few sustainability features, and we always then create what certifications belong to what feature. We have 8 features, one of them, for example, being designed for circularity, another one being made entirely in Europe when the whole supply chain is in Europe. So we develop different features, and then some of which are more, let's say, material-based. And we hope that they create a bit of a simplification between the actual certificate and the word sustainable, you know? So it's a bit something in between. And we're just rolling it out right now. So we can't really say yet how the feedback from the customer will be. But this is something we've also developed together with different, like I said, with Utopia together, with law firms and with other also agencies. So let's see what's the response.
There's some more questions.
Yes, we have another question over there. And you speakers on the panel, maybe you're kind enough to each other to share the microphones you have there, right?
Okay. Hello, Sabina, my name. I was just wondering, so one of the suggestions was to make it simple and to make textiles just, give it a label like this is good or this is bad, for example. So it was very simple. It refers a bit to the energy label we already have. So I was wondering, the Caring Group was consulting the European Commission, and they find that polyester is the most sustainable fiber. So how would you make or claim a polyester material as the best with a good conscience? I couldn't do that.
So who likes to answer? Victor. Super.
I mean, it kind of depends, right, what you use it for, because if you talk about sportswear, polyester is the best thing for that because it's durable, it's elastic, you know, it can last longer, but also when it comes to producing new fibers, you know, you can refer to recycling waste and making sure that you're using what's already been produced. But of course, I think this is the biggest issue also when it comes to communicating to customers, because usually what's perceived to be more sustainable or nature-based is, you know, organic or cotton or linen or silk or things that are being produced in nature. But I guess we have to look at it holistically in terms of what can be durable, what can be used more, what has the ability to last longer. And I guess polyester is the grand achievement of humankind, which is also the biggest curse maybe, is being put on the map. It's interesting to hear because yes, even in our communication most of the time, because we do use a lot of recycled polyester and we communicated about that in the past, but we've seen that customers don't really like to see that. I think cotton is still #1 preferred material, and people think that cotton is more sustainable when it comes to organic or recycled. But it's definitely one of the hardest to recycle when it comes to energy, materials, and polyester is a bit different, and it has different capabilities. You don't have to sort by color when it comes to polyester, so there's a lot more you can do with it. But also, I guess when it comes to industrial wear, I'll give you the microphone in a second, that's the most useful material when it comes to fibers, or?
Thank you, Victor. I could add polyester is maybe the best in certain categories. If you look at recycling, polyester products can be recycled endlessly and infinitely. All the organic materials like cotton, you can recycle them, but the quality goes down. There's an end to that. And so, yes, of course, consumers who wear clothing prefer cotton as it feels better. But a lot of progress has been made in making polycottons that feel very good as well. So, and there, now you have to look at how can we recycle polycottons, the combination of polyester and cotton. A lot of progress has been made there as well. So I think the progress we make in creating good polyester products and which are endlessly recyclable, which is becoming more and more important, is helping to close this loop in exploiting the earth and creating more and more trash that's dumped everywhere. So it has pros and cons. I fully agree. But we should focus on the pros when we look at the future.
I think we have to agree the sustainable world is not black and white anymore. That's why we need this holistic approach, isn't it? I think we have some more questions.
Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked, I really have to admit, but I don't want to express a personal opinion here on polyester, but maybe we should still keep in mind that there is the serious problem of microfiber pollution in oceans, and in all textile standards, which are known to me at least, sometimes the issue of chemicals, hazardous chemicals during the recycling process of polyester is neglected, to say it politely. But one clear question to the when it came to the point of preferred materials, how is Marco Polo considering recycled polyester?
So recycled polyester or synthetic materials make around 20% of the total volume, and mainly in puffer jackets and outerwear. And we've actually, with our ownership topics, we've thought about started a bio-based outerwear research project to convert this last 20% also into natural fibers. But our first, let's say, results that we've found is that it's, let's say, for the prices, not really. In the end, it's also a synthetic material, you have to say. It's a biosynthetic one. And it's for the price points that we're selling at, it's difficult. At scale, it's difficult at the moment. And there's still, like, let's say, a lot of unresolved debate about it. And I think we will maybe explore this further, but I've actually, maybe two more things. One thing to the report that was mentioned, what is not accounted for there also is the production process of crude oil in the beginning. It only really starts at the supply chain. There's also a big criticism to this report. And the second point is that I talked to a professor, Frau Rabe, in Germany. I think she's doing a lot of research in this field. Maybe some of you know her. And I've discussed this with her recently, and she said, from a life cycle perspective, it will still take a few years until these bio-based materials will really be market ready. And it makes more sense to look into textile to textile recycling, for fiber recycling, for polyester products. And of course, this is quite difficult. We have a few DFCs, so designed for circularity outerwear products. And of course, a bigger product is more complicated to dissect. We have a few examples of this, but this also becomes, for example, then you also have to do a polyester zipper. You know, this is one of the reasons when you want to do it circular, for circularization, then only also the Good Life, the LCA applies. And that's a lot of customers don't want that. Customers want to have a nice other kind of zipper or a usual zipper from metal. So I think we've also faced in that circularity road with polyester, we've also faced a few, like, let's say, backlashes from a more style or aesthetic perspective. A lot of points now, but I hope I answered your question a bit.
Yeah, I think we don't have to go deeper in technical detail. It is very interesting, absolutely, but time is running. So do we have a comment or question in case of communication?
Yeah, so I'm Niels, I'm running an award, and every year 1,000 companies asking me like, okay, how can I communicate? So what they are doing for sustainable efforts. But the new question is, as in January, the extended producer responsibility is impacting every country in the European Union and everyone who's selling in the European Union. My question is like, what activities you do to comply, and what effort does that have for your communication to make the loop?
I can start. Extended producer responsibility is definitely a huge topic for us. But we luckily have some examples in other countries like Netherlands. And I think also the question of how to communicate about sustainability is very tricky, because now what we are trying to achieve is to make it embedded in the product or the service, so that you don't have to communicate about this, so that by making choices, people realize that they also have responsibility, I think, which is sometimes we kind of miss that point when we talk about sustainability, that each of us in this room making choices every day that impact the world around us, not only the corporations or the politicians or the governments. So how do you make sure it's simple, easy, and practical? And the EPR, I think, plays a huge role here, because it allows the companies to take that responsibility, but also doesn't make it necessary to communicate as much, because, again, it might be super complicated. It's a legislation that kind of enforces companies to take a responsibility for all the products that they import into a certain market, to create solutions. And what we do behind the scenes is, of course, collaborate with recyclers, sorters. We also invest in our own projects. So recently we invested in a take-back system together with the biggest waste company in Germany called Remondis. And we created Looper, which is our own initiative where we try to find ways to create that feedstock in a simpler way, because the supply chain is quite complex, and of course you cannot always take responsibility for what happens behind the scenes, and therefore you see, a lot of horrible stories about clothing being shored on the oceans and beaches in different countries. So how can you make sure that's a bit tighter, and then you have a bit more control over it? And that's kind of our response. And luckily, when we face with those legislations, it's not starting from scratch or from zero. It's a bit more different for us. It's more aligning and more making it more specific. So we welcome the EPR specifically. We're looking forward to that in Germany. We're working very closely. We are collaborating with policymakers on phrasing and wording and what exactly is going to be demanded from the companies. Because I think a lot of the time it's, of course, everybody means well, but then is that realistic? Are we able to comply with that today? So we're definitely affecting the way that it's phrased, the way that we can contribute, and investing, finding new opportunities to create, the ability to take back all of the volumes and also recycle them and find different purposes for them. But also, again, focusing on communicating to customer about pre-loved, for example. So buying secondhand and choosing secondhand more frequently, combining it with your first-hand offer as well. I
Victor,
see you
what
also.
yeah, time is running. I have so many questions, and it's so interested to come in a dialogue. But before we come then to a final statement, you were talking about listen to each other, learning from each other. This is so important. And but for today, we have the chance. Eli from Amsterdam. I think we can learn so pretty much from the Dutch situation and.
You mean
Eli,
the EPR? In the EPR, you mean communication about the EPR compliancy?
For example.
Yeah, I like the question. How do you communicate that you comply to a law? I would say you don't, because complying to a law is the bare minimum. It would be crazy if you didn't. No, actually, we have in Cipitex, a number of our members are kind of running ahead. And then there's communication opportunities to say, okay, by 2030, this and this should be accomplished. And then your punchline could be, we already did so. So that's, staying ahead of the law, doing better than the law. That is one option to do it. But communicating about you following a law, I would not do it.
I'm very sorry. Yeah, you have a question, but...
But we can continue in the networking reception. That's what it's there for.
Because let's give the speaker the chance for a final statement. We have here experts with different from different kind of perspectives, but in the end, maybe the same. So, yeah, Victor, a short, strong sentence, please, finally.
Yeah, I think awareness and sort of like taking responsibility for your own actions. And we have the privilege of working for many different companies, many different organizations. What is your own personal contribution to that? And I think that with specific examples like EPR, it's not just compliance for us. So when we come to the question of Netherlands, and this is super short, that we had the options of sort of just signing on to the existing format, but we really wanted to find out what happens truly behind the scenes, and will the investment work in the long run? So question everything, but also commit, but also contribute and find ways how you can sort of have that impact as a person, but also as a member of society, whatever, power or opportunity you have at the given moment.
I have to disappoint you, it won't be a sentence. Just like with Victor, because I think what happened here today, a moment ago, is something that was super important for me also to make sure to state here. I think we're at a critical juncture with all those regulations coming in, and I think there's a certain dilemma, and it has been addressed by all of the speakers in one way or another. And it is this dilemma about, yes, we need simple messages, we need credible messages and communication. But then I think what lies ahead, and what is also, especially with due diligence obligations coming up, it's a process. Sustainability, you said it earlier, is learning, it's improvement. It's all about, understanding your risk, opening channels for grievance mechanisms, being able to communicate what you've learned, where you're not good at. All of this is also part of the regulations coming up. So it's a mindset of, like I said, work in progress. It's a mindset of it's okay to not be okay. And I think the risk in simplification is that we are not hugging complexities. We're not embracing complexities. So I think we do need to find a way to, yes, make sure consumers get the information they need, but I think we do need to open, especially for brands, that kind of mindset, and we all need to question ourselves also as consumers. What do we need? What do we expect? Do we want them to communicate that they're perfect? And we've seen a lot of examples of where they're already going ahead and doing it differently. But I think we all need to work on making it okay to not be okay, and to be learning.
Yeah, I'll try to be really short. We've had a lot of talk about communication, about words, about phrasing, about messages. My experience, communication is all that, is words, is text. But more than that, we advise the companies in our group to do something. If it hadn't been a popular phrase already with a big fashion brand, I would say just do it and don't just talk about it.
I think there's going to be a lot of standardization because of legislation. So I think for me it's about like try to find out what makes your company special, what's your particular history, what's your point of view, and come a bit closer to yourself again. I think that's my message.
Thank you very much. Well, to do a recap of this really fantastic evening for me is, yeah, that's what you said, don't speak, do, in one hand, and Christine, what you said, it's okay to be not okay, but you have to be transparent. Maybe that could be the essence for today. So, yeah, before I give you, Cläre, and then the final word, I want to thank you all and for the first part, and give me one sentence in my own behalf. Maybe I can get the next slide for this, colleagues. Yeah, because after 10 years, the commitment of the HESSNATUR Foundation will expire in the next few months. And but the good news is that the successor institute has been determined, and it will the new institute will call APSUS, the Institute for Applied Sustainability. And one more good news is the institute will be with the same skills and with the same people. And yeah, what I want to say is moving forward together, and yeah, and thank you very much. And maybe then final to you.
Yeah,
Cläre.
thank you, Rolf. So I will simply conclude our session by saying thanks to the speakers for your openness and for sharing your expertise, and thanking you, everybody, for coming here. Thank you for listening, and thank you for thinking, because sustainability always is a discourse. It affects society as a whole, so sustainability is never a state or a point. It is always a process, and we want to take everyone along with us. So we hope we can continue the series here in the Embassy of Sweden. At this point, let me say many thanks to the Embassy and the team, and especially to Ambassador Veronika Wand-Danielsson. And from the HESSNATUR Stiftung team, give a round of applause for Caroline Klipper, because she organized the conference. And now let us just meet at the networking reception and continue these really interesting exchanges. And yeah, we will have the chance to explore Prosecco by Delinat and snacks by Bolstener Mühle and coffee and cinnamon buns by Victoria Kaffee Bar. And you will also enjoy some Logokos Naturkosmetik in your goodie bag. So thank you for coming, and see you next year.